Hey everyone, welcome to the stream. So let's continue where we left off a couple nights ago. The only thing I did since last stream, so last time we had worked on, we had basically focused on one thing, which was the whole user experience of opening ROMs from the menu and having the emulator remember the last ROM you had opened so that it could use that path the next time you launch it and try to open. So that works really well. It means that actually I could technically add an option for, like, you know, having a recent menu if I wanted. That could be like a cute little option. Let me add that. Add a recent ROMs recent ROMs entry in the file menu. That could be interesting. So I did that, and then after that I only did this one small change, and the small change was one of the things I'd done last stream was to use std file system instead of std experimental file system. And while this works, when I submitted my change and used AppVeyor to build to build my version, AppVeyor, which is like this really cool continuous integration system that's hooked into GitHub, it doesn't have the latest version of Visual Studio, and so it would fail because std file system was not yet available at that version. So what I did was I just added a kind of like a file system header wrapper. And I can just show it to you in the code. I think it's easier. Yeah, here it is. So it includes file system, which is always the case, but I check, if we're on MSC, basically MSVC, if the version is greater than 1914, which is the latest version, it's 15.7. In that case, we get a namespace fs to std file system. Otherwise, I do what we used to do, which is std experimental file system. And I mean, for the most part, they're very similar. So the functionality that I use seems to work in both cases. And otherwise, I just assume that, if it's not Visual Studio, so let's say Clang or GCC, I haven't tested this yet, but we're going to assume that it has the normal file system in there. So I mean, I could technically say if MSC and version greater than 1914 or less than 1914, use experimental else. But I want to kind of keep it separate here because we might need to do some special casing for Clang and GCC. So that's pretty much it. So we're getting really close to, getting this emulator in a state where we'll be able to produce releases for people to play with. I just have a couple more things I want to do. So this is a change that I kind of want to make mostly for high DPI displays like my laptop. So I won't be able to test it here, but I know that setting the ImGUI font scale to 2 by default for a high DPI display is probably a good idea. It seems to work well on my laptop, so I can detect that with SDL. So I'll take a look at doing this. I also want to save the state of ImGUI debug window to the options file. I want to also turn off the GL debug messages by default and have it be something we could turn on with an option in the debug menu. Or perhaps reduce the severity level. I'm not sure. I'm probably going to just make it turn off for now because most people won't really want to know about that. I'll consider it a debug feature and something for development purposes. I have this assert and release. I'll think about that. This is kind of lower priority in my mind. I'll just move it down here. Also, that's not really a big deal. So actually, these top 3 are the ones I kind of want to get done more than anything for getting it to be released. So why don't we just get started? So ImGUI font scale to 2. So that's going to be an SDL engine here. And I believe I saw what does this say? get window flags, I think. Otherwise you receive a... Okay, what does this say about high DPI? SDL window allow high DPI. Window should be created in high DPI mode if supported. Oh, that's interesting. So what does a high DPI OpenGL canvas mean? So if it is created with SDL window allow high DPI flag, its pixels may differ from its size in screen coordinates on platforms with high DPI support. iOS and Mac OS X. Use SDL get window size to query the client area size and screen coordinates, and SDL GL get drawable size or SDL get render output size to query the drawable size in pixels. Interesting. I'm not quite sure what that means. I might have to just like figure out my own thing here. I thought I saw something about querying if we're in a high DPI display. Surely we should be able to know. Hey Metal Voids! Hey, welcome to the stream. Did you catch Ferris today? He was actually back streaming his MU dev today after like a few weeks of not streaming. Oh, you missed a notification? Anyway, it was cool. So I'm looking now to figuring out how SDL get, oh what's this, get display DPI. Huh. I think that's the function I had seen. Okay, let's look into this function. I might actually have to do this on my laptop if I can't do much here, so maybe I'll have to move on from this change. Okay, display index. The index of the display for which DPI information should be queried. And that's true, I probably need to figure out which display we're opening on. A pointer filled with the diagonal DPI of the display. A pointer filled with the horizontal DPI, a pointer filled with the vertical DPI. Curious what it'll return right now. Probably gonna return like 1 or something. Let's see. put it in here. Probably SDL init should be run first. Let's see here. Oh, that's not right. That's what I wanted. Yeah, I should probably also check the return value. Okay, so I got 96 for that, which makes sense. Oh, I think I changed the code here by accident. Yeah, so basically it's revert. It's 96. So I don't really know what I'm supposed to be looking for in terms of high DPI, like. Like, should I be doing something where we scale the SDL font based on a ratio of like 96 is 1, and so whatever the DPI is, we divide by this, and we kind of like snap it maybe to the nearest 0.5 or something like that? Or just scale it all together, because I mean it looks like it's something that would be totally scalable. Yeah, I think this is something that I'm going to have to do some tests on. So I'll write the code, and then I'll put it on a branch, and I'll try it on my laptop and see what it gets me. Unfortunately, I don't have like a lot of high DPI displays to test on, and I could change the DPI, you know, on my machine here. Just don't know how well that's going to work with OBS and stuff. I'm a bit concerned about doing that kind of thing, like on stream. Where is it again that we change it? I think it's like they've kind of hidden the DPI options, haven't they? Is there a way to... Yeah, so I guess it's this here. Oh yeah? Is that true? I don't even know which build I have. Yeah, I think I'm gonna mess around with this off stream. But, well, I'll just write the code that I think we want here. Okay, so little helper function apparently can fail. I'm not going to care too much if it does. It just won't do anything with it. And again, this is just for setting the default ImGUI font scale here. So we'll say I'll just put if we got a DPI, then, so if we fail, we'll just return 1. And whatever, it's fine. If we got a DPI, then we'll say, take that DPI and divide it by 96. So something like this. Now obviously on mine it's just going to return 1. I'm curious, do I have the version that would just immediately apply? Oh wow. Okay, it looks like it's going to work. I just did it on my monitor 1, which is actually the monitor you don't see on stream here. And it seems to have done the trick. So okay, so let's just make sure this gives us 1. I mean, it really should. See, return 1.0, and we're happy with that. So this, we're talking about the font scale, it's the size you see up here, right? Now, ostensibly, if we go and we change this display, let's say to 125%, It's very big. So it still returns 96. So I don't think this is, I guess, yeah, I don't know. This doesn't change anything, because I guess the whole point is for this to look like, if you choose a, I'm actually a bit surprised. Maybe I shouldn't be, because I'm not changing the resolution or anything. I'll have to try this on my laptop. So like I said, I'm just going to stick this on a branch and give it a try later. So high DPI font scale. And I'll say scale ImGUI font based on screen DPI. Okay, so we'll go back to master. Alright, so this next one shouldn't be too hard. Save ImGUI debug window to options file. Kind of sucks because we are does it return true if the option changes, or does it return true when it's set to on? That's the thing I don't know. Let's find out. If this, then let's print something. Debug window option changed. Because this is a GUI, a debug, like a Boolean toggle, so I don't know what the behavior is in that specific case. Okay, I'll bring the console here. So if we say debug window, it says it changed, but if we do this again, okay, great. So Boolean toggles always return true when the option gets modified, which I guess it's not, it's just if you've interacted with it, it'll return true. So that's perfect. So what we want is to do, what was the option again? This one here. You know, I do this a lot, this kind of set and save. I'm almost thinking we should have a set and save function. Kind of reduce the clutter. Alright, so no, that's not where I was. It was here. MGUI debug window, so we just save the option. And that's it. That's pretty simple. So what this means is if we open it, kill our app, the next time it should be open. Oh, actually, yeah, no, it is. There it is. I don't like how it ends up over here in the corner. Why does it do that? It's kind of, I guess it has its own settings for saving its position, but okay, see, I think when you close and reopen it, it saves its position. So now it's there, and of course if we turn it off, see the fact that we saw that means that the options file changed. We can actually see it. Let's see here. There it is. See, it says to set the false here. So of course next time we launch, it will not be visible. Now it is. Close this. It's set to true. So that works. You know what would be nice is for that debug window to also show, like, it kind of sucks that you have to turn it off explicitly through the menu. It would be nice to just click X on it, and I think I can do that. Let's see. I think it's one of the options to begin, right? Let me see. Window flags, yeah. It's one of the flags. I think I have to say that it's modal, but or do I have to open it as a modal? Is that what it means? If it's too complicated, I won't bother. MGUI show close button. I know that I have a close button on my about menu. So I do about here. This is what I'm talking about, this X in the corner here. And that happens because it's a modal window, where I guess this one is a modeless, or not even a modeless. This is some kind of dialogue. It's like some kind of special version of a window. It feels like, you know, what just happened. Seems like I lost. That's odd. Some kind of bug. While window and window not equal to modal. So we're stuck in some infinite loop here. New frame. Oh, that's odd. The modal stuff is a little bit weird, to be honest. Is it because there's two of them open that it doesn't know what to do? Is that the bug? That's kind of disturbing. Yeah, see, this works now. But if I have this open, and then I do this, oh no, now it's working. Oh, and then now it'll stop working. Hovered root window is debug. While window and window not equal, then it goes to parent window, which is also debug. If not window, yeah, so it's got this concept of a hovered window. Find hovered window. Find the window we are hovering. Child windows can extend beyond the limit of their parent. This feels like a bug, doesn't it? I don't think I'm doing anything weird. So the window is its own parent. That doesn't seem right. The same ID. That seems totally wrong. I wonder if that's happening because of this one thing I'm doing where I keep creating a begin end of the same window for every single element, and I wonder if maybe that's bad behavior. Because yeah, that might be it, right? Like I'm creating a window, and then I do end. But then I guess that maybe remains the current window somehow internally. I wouldn't be surprised that this is actually the problem. I can actually I can easily test this. What we can do, okay, let's do, okay, what do we do? Okay, so let's say we do this, and then what we'll do is Right. Okay, so it wasn't that at all. Okay, that's kind of good, because it was kind of bothering me that I would have to do this. It's not as flexible, you know? Okay, so the thing we want to figure out here is how a window gets its own parent assigned to it. See, we're already fucked right now. I wonder if it has something to do with that hover state thing I saw. Let me see, I'm gonna try something again. See, when I'm hovering here, we're fine. If I click here, yeah, it's as soon as I click on the outside, that's it. See, now it's not working anymore. So it's got something to do with clicking on the outside. That's really buggy. Let me see something. If I close this, open that, and click here, see, now it's okay if I click anywhere, it doesn't seem to cause any issues. It's really the very fact that there's this other hovering window. Now we're okay, but if I click here, we're okay. As soon as I click on this guy, that screws up everything. So that seems like an MGUI bug right there, doesn't it? Okay, so let's say see, there's this thing about modal window here. It says get frontmost modal root window, which is really what I should be dealing with. Okay, let me put a conditional breakpoint on when this guy gets set. See, as soon as I hover over it, this guy gets set. Now it's going to be what, the menu? Yeah, main menu bar. Alright. Let's disable this breakpoint for just a second. I bring up this guy, we're all good to go. And then I turn this back on. I think I'm already stuck. We come back to the deal with this. You know what? Let's try something else. With this breakpoint, we can see, like, is the parent thing messed up as soon as we come here? The modal window. Okay, now the hovered window. Let's write this again. Oops, and check its parent. What am I looking for? Parent window, is it? Yeah, parent window. Okay, so it already has itself as its parent, so that's already wrong. G Windows, here it is. So what we want to see is when things get added to G Windows. Pushback. So we create new window. Let's start all over. Debug. So there it is. So let's see, does this window have itself yet? It does not have itself. So now I can put a data breakpoint on when this parent will get changed, and hopefully we'll see what's going on here, because I'm pretty sure that's not what we expect. So we have a breakpoint on the address of parent. We'll hit F5. Oh, and I think we're just hitting this inline function here. Ah, okay, so there's our data breakpoint. So what happened here? Parent Windows debug and Windows debug, the same ID. So the issue here is apparently it's as if we're not calling the end function, because there's like this stack here, right? Wait a minute. No, it doesn't make sense. We're in main here. We're doing frame update. Screen frame update. Yeah. Do I have like a begin somewhere that's not ended? Basically, that's the issue, right? There's like some kind of. Let me see. Did I miss one? Ah, I think I know. Yeah, okay, it's the implicit debug one that causes this problem. If you don't do anything, there's an implicit window. We will only render it if the user has added something to it. I see. So debug is really special. So, okay, I understand now. Like, I think if I call it anything but debug, it would work. But if it's debug specifically, we don't want to do begin end because that's like the implicit one. Fascinating. I could like do like a if you know the string you passed in is debugged, then don't call begin and don't call end. But then the thing with that is if I want to have like interleaved imgui calls to different windows, that's not really gonna work. You know what I mean? Because it's gonna use whatever like the maybe it would work. Yeah, it might work actually because we'll always have a clean stack, so it should work. So something like can I do this? Alternatively, I could just make sure to use another name and make sure we never use debug for this specific thing. See, let me just see if this works. Yeah, see now we're working now. Because we don't have that infinite loop of the debug window thing. And as a test, I should be able to put screen here, for example. Oh yeah, and add a member called screen. Oh, I guess because it's not being shown and I don't have an option to show it. So let me do this. True, I guess, whatever. Yeah, see? So it's working. And if I show this, clicking does not break anything. Okay, so that's cool. So I fixed that bug, but I still haven't figured out how to get an X over here. I think the only way really is to make it, to do the whole like modeless window thing, which is a bit annoying, I think. Let me see. These are all internal. Oh, is it just that? Oh my gosh, that's all it is, isn't it? It's just passing in a bool. Oh yeah, that's right. Pass in a bool, then it will have a close button on it. Yes, that's right. So if we do something like no, what is it doesn't like? Like that. Okay. A few things swimming through my mind right now. I think what I'm going to do here, I'm going to first of all move this into an inline function. Ah yes, in the function. Yeah, I might not be able to do this func part easily. I know what to do here. I'll just do this. GUI internal, isn't it? It says do imGUI call is not a member of GUI internal. Oh, I know why. I did not match the names correctly. And that's type. Okay, that compiles. Great. The little trick here is to wrap the func that I get from the macro into a lambda expression, because I'm not sure I can just... Hey Kev Doge 23, thanks for the follow, Kev Dog. Sorry if I don't say your name right. Yeah, so the trick here is to wrap it up in here, because what we get is a call like this in the macro, right? And passing like the address of this won't work. So what I do instead is I wrap it up in a little lambda expression, and then this way I can just capture it by whatever the lambda type that will be created here. Not capture it, but I mean it'll bind to this template parameter func, and then we just invoke the lambda expression, which will in turn call whatever code was put in here. So that should work. What I like about that is it keeps this code clean, right? So let's say that works. Now at least I can iterate on this and even step through it in the debugger. So this is a good technique, especially in modern C++, where you can do this kind of stuff to, you know, make multi-line code or multi-line, sorry, what's the word I'm looking for? Macros. Convert them instead into single function calls, and then do your multi-line in here so that you can actually debug it correctly. So, what did I want to do with this? I wanted to check for, yes, the closed here. What we're supposed to do is say, you know, if we did get closed, close current pop-up. And I guess we're supposed to do that inside here. Let's see if this works. Wow, that did not work. So it looks like okay, I don't think this is related to closed at all. I think this is purely just, yeah, you know, this is just to do with my code here. There's a small bug somewhere. So let's figure that out. Oh. I have warnings on unused variables, and I have warnings as errors enabled, so like whenever I have an unused variable, it causes a compile failure, which, although a bit obnoxious, I don't really mind. Oh, this has been inlined, of course. Possibly because I wrote inline here. Technically, it doesn't need to be inlined. It is a template call, template function. Okay. So let's see. Name is screen, type is screen, and I guess we're not going to see what func is. Oh, of course. Now that func is actually a real function, we have to invoke it like this and not with a semicolon at the end, which is basically a no-op. And of course, you know, we don't get any warning about the fact that there was no side effect to doing that because that's C++. You see, because we were able to step through this code rather than try to read a macro, we were able to see that we didn't actually execute this code. So really, multi-line macros are terrible. Don't use them. Okay, so we're back in business. Let's bring back our closed code here. Still not closing. You know what? I know what's happening. Yes, okay. Yeah, it's not okay. I totally understand what's happening. It's because we're calling this for many times, right? And each time we do, we're calling we're starting a begin end for each one. What we really want to do is we want to disable that window, and then what's going to happen is that it won't be called the next time. So I don't know if I'm making any sense, but basically we want to do this. If we click the close button, disable the window, and then any future calls to this imgui call here will basically do nothing. It's a bit weird because it's like when you click the X, we don't know which one of these at the moment you click the X is actually processing. That's still not working. Isn't this actually disabling it? Maybe I don't know how this bool works here. Oh, it's not closed, it's open. What the hell does that mean? P open. If it's not equal to null, close button, and then if we click it, P open becomes false. So it's the other way around. Okay. It's kind of like a weird name, but whatever. Okay, so if not open, then we do this. Yeah. Okay, I gotta close that options file here. Looks like what's happening is, at least initially when we launch, this actually is getting set to false. Oh no, okay, so maybe because I have to set it to true. Yeah, okay. Alright, that makes sense. The value is just not changing. We'll get there. Finally. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna put this back to debug. Instead of debug, we're gonna want to use another name. Because debug is a special name. So maybe we'll change this to say, if it's debug, rather, we'll use another name. This way we don't collide with the one that's internal. It's either that or I need to change this name here. Maybe like this. So we say open is true, which actually I can move down here. Okay, if we passed in debug, then just use debug options instead so we don't collide with internal window with ImGUI's internal window. Yeah, this should work. True. So actually this can be brought back to this. Sweet. Finally. See, there's a checkbox here. We can do this, turn it back on, close here. It's gone. Very nice. And I think there's one more little thing I want to do here. And that is, I wanted to add, there is one ImGUI flag that I really like. I think it's it always auto resizes it, or is it? There's one that kind of resizes it to fit. And since we're constantly calling it, it's going to basically resize it to fit everything we show. And I think that should look good. Mind you, I suppose that means that if you do resize it manually, it won't be taken into account. Yeah, that's what it means. Maybe it's better we don't do that. Okay, forget that. Okay, so this was save ImGUI debug window when changed to options file. And there was just one little thing I was thinking about, which is the default value should probably be based on this here. Let me see, SDL engine. Oh no, okay, it gets set to whatever was stored in the file. Okay, that's fine. Is it not being stored anymore? I thought I just... Close this. Close this. Why is this true? Ah, right. Yeah, that makes sense. If I close it now, it's not going to save the option because it will not have noticed that it changed. Because we're not using always the menu to make the change. Okay, so this close button thing is cool, but the downside is that now we have two ways to close, and this is not a place where I want to access options. So then I have to do some kind of like detection, you know, in my main engine section here, which is not super cool. Okay, so you know what I'm gonna do? Let me reset. No, I don't really want to do that. Maybe I do. Back to here, because I'm gonna rethink this a little bit. So 505. So like one way to do this would be something like like we copy this enabled Windows here, and we just check it every frame to see if it changed. And that's an array, isn't it? Do you have an algorithm to compare element by element? I have equal. But we have to use these gross iterators. Man, I can't wait for ranges. Okay, we'll just do this. Yeah, I think that's what we should do next time, is something like, rather than save imgui debug window, we'll save imgui enabled windows, and we just kind of reflect this array by index or something. Or by name, I don't know. Indices is kind of dangerous, maybe something like... So now, what that means is that technically we don't need this if statement. We can go back to having it just be like this, because we're going to detect when it changes anyway. So if I close this, it did not detect it. Oh, is it just because it's in line? Oh, it's been in line. Okay, so what we can do is we'll just open options. It's set to true. If I close it, no. What is happening here? Oh, it's a pointer. Okay. That's interesting. Wow, that's really sucky, isn't it? I would have thought that auto would have done the right thing here. This type is basically a bool array, yet the type of last enabled Windows is a bool star. I guess that's, oh yeah, that's the way template type deduction would have worked here. Yeah, that's true. Template type deduction for arrays really sucks. Actually, a lot of this could be solved if we just wrap this in a struct. But then I'd have to go change places where I have enabled Windows. But it is true, that would work. I guess I could do decal type. I think that would work. Yeah. Cannot convert from bool 1 to const bool 1. Yeah. Again, can't copy arrays because it's not wrapped in a struct. Everything about arrays sucks. Okay, what we're gonna do is we're gonna do this. I think I'm gonna use array, which is really what I should have done. What? What did I just do? Oh. Okay, so here at least it's detecting a change. Here it's detecting this change. But it doesn't detect when I close it, which is odd, since it would have changed a value in here. See, it's false. I guess it depends when it gets changed. Of course. Ah, right. I should not do what I'm doing, okay. Because it's during the frame update that it gets changed. So I need to do this test. I need to keep this up here, let's say, but I need to do the check much later. This just gets grosser and grosser. Or what we do we make it static. And then we always update it after. So the very first time it'll be equal, and then after that we update it here, and then it'll have the whole frame, including the bottom, to change. Now we hit our breakpoint. We hit it again. We hit it again. So it looks like it's working. So let's run a few tests. So if I close it now and I open it, it should be not open. Show the debug window, close it. It will open now. Okay. Well, that was really a lot of work just to get a closed button working on that dialogue, I have to say. Jeez. Definitely this here was the right move. And I really should just stop ever using C-style arrays. The number of times it gets me into trouble, like, whoops, sorry for that. Basically, stood array is a proper class that wraps a C-style array. And it comes with all the advantages of that, like being able to actually assign between different stood arrays, and it'll actually copy the elements because it'll be able to copy the arrays, being able to use it with algorithms, and in fact, does it have a default comparison? Just curious. Can I do like probably not, right? Oh, it does. That's kind of neat too, isn't it? Oh, take care, Metal Voids. Thanks for hanging out, man. Yeah, so you see there's even a not equals operator. And then it uses stood equal. Come on, that's super cool. You can see like there's so much functionality on stood array. I just saw here lexicographical compare, which is the default for when you use less than. So that can be used for, I guess, basically you can you can take two stood arrays and do a lexicographical compare by comparing if one is less than the other, which is really nice. Yeah, there's basically just no reason to use a C-style array. Cool. But yeah, I was gonna say another thing is the fact that I need to like test whether this flag changed on the outside isn't that cool, right? It was way better when we were just doing the ImGUI style thing of, oh, if the menu option changed, then update it then. But now that we have two ways, we have to handle it differently. And this is a little bit of the, I guess this is the downside to using immediate mode GUIs. Like in a normal GUI system where you have callbacks, you'd be able to say register the closed function for your dialogue, right? And you could say, well, if you click the X or click, OK or whatever, hit a menu or something, all of them are routed to the same closed function, which would do the right thing. And that's the one advantage you get with those kind of callbacks-based menu systems. In immediate mode, you don't get that kind of thing, right? You have to process it in line, in frame. And so if there are two ways to do something, you have to kind of repeat yourself or find a way to funnel the information into one place, which is what I'm doing here. I mean, and that's all right. It's not the end of the world. The other option is just to forego the two ways to do one thing. But I find like, in general, having just a close button here is just so natural. You want to be able to close it. I think it's really weird to have to say, oh, I want to close this thing. Oh, I'm gonna have to go into the menu and close it this way. It just doesn't feel normal in terms of user experience. So, you know, with a little bit of complexity, I think it's worth it. And at the same time, you know, this is the kind of thing where if we do add more windows later, it won't be much more difficult to make it work. Okay. I'll say save imgui debug window when changed to options file, and what else do we do? And add close button to debug window, I guess, for now, to imgui call windows. Let's do that. Whoops. imgui call windows. All right, so let's move this to my done. And we can do this one. I'm gonna be right back. I'm just gonna go to washroom. All right, thanks for waiting. Okay. So Next is GL debug messages, off by default, turn on with an option. Okay. So what we're talking about here is no, I almost don't really feel like putting this in options. I don't know. Huh, look at that. Yeah, so MGUI does this thing where it saves stuff. And we can see how it does that. It uses the name of the window. And you can see where, you know, the tests we did are in there. And it saves position, size, and collapse. Hold on a second. Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just checking to see, like, does MGUI actually save the properties? Could it save the properties that are in the window? But I think that, you know, that would be outside of its scope, so no. And what I'm wondering is, do I really want to back this option completely behind the options thing? Maybe. Let me see. Because to do that, I'd have to pass down the options here through render scene, which, you know, not a big deal. We call that here in the engine anyway. So I could always pass it the same thing I pass frame update. That is to say, I could pass it to emu context, and then from there it could look at the options, or I could just pass it just the options. I don't know if I should pass it to context or not. Maybe. At the same time, this is more like an initialization option, I think. There's kind of like two things here. There's this whole the debug message stuff. To do it, you need to create what's called a debug context in OpenGL, which is technically a slower context. So if we don't want debug messages at all, we technically don't want to create that kind of context. Now, so like that's like one axis. Then there's the other axis, which is we did create the context, but we don't want the messages to be spamming, you know, or like we want to turn on or off whether we get messages. And the thing with the GL context is I don't want to destroy recreate contexts. I only want to do this once when we start. But then let's say we do have a debug context, then we could consider just, you know, blocking messages on or off. So that's really kind of where I'm at right now. I don't really know. In terms of user experience, think what I'm most interested right now in doing is maybe just controlling whether or not we create the debug context. Because it's really just for me, it's for development. So maybe we could approach this differently. What we could do... Yeah, I have an idea. We'll do this here. We'll remove the enabled GL debugging from here altogether. We'll go into SDL engine. Now we'll say to this, enable GL debugging, and then that would be passed down to create GL context, and it would also be passed to, to the init for the initialize here. So it's like needed in two places. We need to create the context, and we need to tell GL render that we are also using GL debugging. So that's the two places that it's needed. And now we can control the initial state of this flag completely through the options. So that's what we'll do. So we'll replace this with what comes from options. Not too far, here we are. Maybe I'll just call this GL. Maybe I should not use this name and I should go a bit more specific. Not really just GL debugging, is it? I'm realizing that technically speaking, I don't really need to put these types here for the ones that can be deduced. Maybe I shouldn't. Enable GL debugging. And did I set a default? Yeah, I set it to false. That's perfect. And then the one thing I'll do is I'll add it to the debug menu options. Oh no, I won't do that. So that's the kind of thing I'll want to change myself, I suppose. Yeah, that's the one thing. If I put it in the menu, then it would be an option that only really matters when you launch, which is kind of weird. So there it is. So if we set this to true, we've created a debug render context. And if we set it to the default false, we will have not. So this would become the only option that we don't control right now through the UI, which is probably okay because it's really for me. And I still wanted to make it an option because if ever I run this on another machine and I don't have the code, I want to be able to turn this on myself and see what's going on. So yeah, I think it's alright. It's like a developer option. Should be okay. So let's go with this. Make enable GL debugging an option. This ensures this is a developer only option for now and must be set directly in the options file. I'm thinking it might be fun to add at least a single recent ROM entry. I could stop now, actually. I'm looking at the time, but maybe I'll just a quick stab at trying to do a file, you know, between open ROM and exit, put like, you know, the last ROM we played. I don't know if I want to do like a whole recent with a sub menu there. Let's see how it goes, because we have the last one we played, right? So I could just at least grab this name here. Let's try. Let's go into menu. I really should move this into its own function now. The only reason I'm not is because I know I'm gonna have to pass in some data, but maybe I should. Yeah, let's refactor this just a little bit. We have poll events, we have update frame time. So poll events, update pause tape, update frame time, and then we can do update menu. Okay, so now we look at everything that is missing. We're going to need the MU events. In fact, you know what we really need here? We need this object here. I'm going to rip this out and put this into a new context. And we'll pass the MU context to the update menu. This one will not be const because we're going to need to modify it. I also need to know whether we need to quit. I guess I don't need the options because I access it globally. So maybe then I'll go just like this. And I'll bring this back to how I had it before. it class or struct? I don't remember. Ah, it's a vector. So, engine client. Okay. There we go. Refactor complete. Make sure everything works. Okay, looks good. Factor out menu code into its own function. Alright, so now let's do the reset menu thing. I'm just wondering why I made this thing global. Why did I make this global? Why don't I have any of these global, to be honest? We could just... Oh yeah, because of run. Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So let's go to the file menu here. We have open ROM, and in here we want to say if we actually have a recent. So let's say like also last ROM or something. Last open file. So do this. No, goptions dot. Man, I totally should put that operator on there, shouldn't I? Anyway. Get. So we get it as a string. If last open file dot, if it's not empty. I love this C++ 17 initialize and then check condition in if statements because it scopes the variables, so it's really cool. So we have a last open file, so therefore we would like to add a menu item that says open last, open recent. I'll just say recent, and then we'll do like a format string here. Yeah. So say I do have one. How do I signify that? It's true. I don't really have a way to do that. Not from here anyway. Just want to see if it actually works. Okay, so it looks like it works. Of course, I don't really want it to look like that, so let's format that last open file a little bit. So we'll say I don't know what it's called, that function. Remove file name. Can I get some autocomplete here? So it only has the ability to remove file name, replace extension. What if I just want the file name part? File name. So maybe what I want to do is just create a file name. Oh no, okay, there's no class for file name. Let me check path. Root name, root directory, file name, so there should be a way to get that. File name, okay, so it's a function. Not too complicated. Does that return a path? It does, okay. I think it's string. So that's cool. So it shows armor attack. Maybe I'll say open recent. open recent. It would be nice to remove even the extension, so let's do that. Let's go with file name and then remove extension and then string. Was it not remove extension? Maybe I misread that. I was replace extension and remove file name. Looks like if you do replace extension with no parameters, it would effectively remove it. Let's see. There you go. Not too bad. Now, how do I make this work? So right now, the emu event is just an enum. So you know what we would need here is to use a tagged union. So to use a variant, basically, of options. Here, what I would want is open ROM file of string, you know, so we would like give it a file. And if we don't give it a file, it means open anything. So it'd be something like, rather than this enum class type with the type here, it'd be interesting to explore this. So let's say we create types, like break into debugger. And reset. And open ROM file. And this time we say file name. Or maybe actually put a path. Right? And then we say std variant can be break into debugger, reset open ROM file, okay, so we're missing some includes here. Oh no, it's fs path, that's why. This is step one. So basically now, rather than give it an enum value, we're going to have to say yeah, let's see how much code actually changes as a result of this. So open ROM file here won't work. We're going to have to give it something. Yeah, we're going to break a bunch of code, but it's okay. I think it's okay. But it's not a member of std variant. Yeah, it's going to have to change. We're going to have to say break into debugger like this. Yeah, that's right. So everywhere where we have emu event type, we're going to have to change it to remove the type and put a constructor Like here, open ROM file, yeah, like that. Okay, so this part is not too hard, but the part that's going to be more interesting, or maybe more complex, will be where we consume these, which is in main, if I'm not mistaken. And then just for completeness, we'll say that open file, ROM file here, we know that what we want to do is, for the last open file, is we want to do the same thing, but this time we actually want to pass it the path to the last open file. So this is the difference between, say, this one that takes no path and this one that does. Now this all compiles, but of course in main, where we consume this, we're going to have to, and I think in the debugger as well. We'll start with main. So here, like, we're checking if the type is equal to this, and we won't be able to do that. Yeah, so this is our variant, right? So we're gonna have to say, what was it again? Kind of a gross function, but actually we can probably change this code now. Rather than do find if and then find if, we could change this code instead to iterate over the emu events and like invoke a visitor on them. Yeah, maybe we should do that, but for now I'll just kind of keep it simple. So we'll just say holds alternative. I think this, so this is a freestanding function. Looks like it. Reset as a type, and then we pass it the type inside. So we're checking if emu events holds a reset, then we reset. So it's not amazing, but whatever. It gets us there. Same thing over here. Return whether we are holding a emu event open ROM file. So actually this one here is a bit more than this, right? We're going to want to actually get this value here so that we can get the, yeah, this comes back to what I was saying about wanting to actually switch over these cases. All right, so let's do what I was saying. For auto emu event in emu events, let me say then we're going to want to use get if, like I did in my yeah, so it was against get if, yeah. So actually I don't really care about getting the reset, but alright, whatever. Get if it's an emu event reset. I don't know if I'm going to get an unused variable warning. I might, which won't be that cool. We'll see. What? What's wrong here? Oh yes, I have to pass it the address. It's a pointer. And then we say reset. And I can't do an else because of the scoped variables. Oh no, I could, because I'm not going to give the same name. So else if auto open ROM file is equal to std get if and this is where it gets interesting, because now we take this code, but we don't necessarily open a file dialog. It's going to depend on if we actually have a file already. If the path, oh yeah, it's a pointer. If the path is empty, then we open the file dialog, we do this thing. I'm gonna go like this. This is a string. Hey Lisp Gamer, yeah, I announced it on Twitter that this week I shifted my days by one, so Tuesday, Thursday, and I might actually be sticking to this change for at least for the summer. So we'll see. I'm not sure yet there. I'm gonna keep announcing this change if that's what I'm gonna be doing next week, let's say. Yeah, so it's possible that's gonna be Tuesday, Thursdays from now on. What's Twitter? It's a small thing. Not that many people use it. Now, if it's not empty, we want to set file to be equal to open ROM file path string, I guess, something like this. And finally, if file is not empty, and load ROM of this file. know what? Actually, what I'll do is I'll call this. I'll use fs path here, and I'll say ROM path. Yeah, I think I'll prefer that. Because this is actually a path, and so is this. So that's just much more. And then we'll just go back to if ROM path and that's that, right? Is that right? If ROM path is valid, no, and then this is string. So it is already Lisp Gamer, right? That's what I'm using. Basically, C++ 17 includes std file system, which is basically most of BoostFS with some changes. And Visual Studio's latest version has implemented all of C++ 17, so you can just use it as is. Yeah, this is all C++ 17. I think you can see it on the top of my... I don't know if you see that? Up here somewhere. There. Above my mouse. I was thinking, like, if I'm still working on this when C++ 20 comes out, I'm gonna have to change the title bar. But I doubt I'll still be working on this. Okay, so I fixed. Okay, so oh yeah, there's some code here that I have to handle in the debugger. Maybe I like using event like I did over here. And it's the only one is debugger. What's this here? Reset. Oh yeah. Main. Oh yeah, this is not good. So yeah, these have to disappear. Now I have this loop up here. Alright, Lisp Gamer, well thanks for joining for a little bit. Maybe I'll see you next week, either Monday, Tuesday, I don't know. And then this debugger here, and I think this is the only place where I need to know whether to break into the debugger. So here I'll just say if, I can never remember that name, holds alternative. So I think if this works, we basically are using std variant to do our tagged unions the way other hip languages are doing it. Sweet! Totally works. That's pretty cool. That was kind of fun. Sorry, I'm enjoying this too much. Well, that was really fun. Not too difficult, and you know, like, I find it kind of powerful, you know, to be able to communicate. This makes the events much more powerful. Before they were just kind of on or off, like, is there this event in the queue? And now we know that we can create much more detailed emulation events by creating a bunch of types, right? And doing the whole tagged union thing. If empty, open, optional. If not set, open the use open file dialog. So, all right, let's commit this, and then I'm going to call it a night. Alright, so here I'll say add file open recent file name, and this will only show up if we actually have a recent. I should actually test that. Like, if we go ahead and like delete the last open file, so that basically it would be at default, which is an empty string, like this, then you see there is no recent ROM in the menu. And of course, as soon as we open one, now there is. If a whatever converted type into a variant rather than use an image. So that open ROM file can take an optional parameter. So the only thing that's not super cool, and this is kind of a problem with variant right now, is the checking things like holds alternative and this kind of get if stuff. It's not the coolest thing, right? And just to be fair, like, there is a better solution in C++ 17. It's sort of like doing the match expressions like in Rust and other languages, but I've had trouble with it. So it's not really part of the language, but there is this, I think they show it in CPP reference. Where was it again? Yeah, it's the visit. Because right now visit is kind of sucky because you have to create this separate type. Or you can do this little trick that they show up here, where you create this class called overloaded that actually derives from all its parameters, and those parameters are lambda expressions. And then you have a deduction guide here for, no, sorry, this is a function. No, it's a deduction guide for the constructor for overloaded that basically allows you to just use overloaded like this. So you can go std visit and you create, wait, no, it's down here. This is it. So you say, I want to visit, and then you say, I'm going to call this overloaded here, which will construct this type. You don't need to pass it any template parameters due to this template deduction guide. And then you just pass it a series of lambda expressions that match the specific types you want to match. You can use auto, which is a C++17 feature to capture, this just generates like a template lambda expression, so it'll catch the default case like all the rest. Otherwise, it'll match against double or const string ref here, so whichever is the best match. So this is really like as close as it gets to match expressions. But the last time I tried to use this, it didn't work. Although now it might work with the latest version of Visual Studio. But I kind of have to be careful because, as I talked about at the beginning of the stream, AppVeyor, for instance, is not on the latest version. It's not yet on 15.7. And so if I introduce this, it's gonna for sure break on that compiler. So there's still a little bit of a kind of a lead time I need to give for certain continuous integration tools to sort of catch up. So let's commit this, and just for fun, I'm gonna show what I mean. Like, let's just see if it works. So we've committed that. So ideally, what we'd want to do is, if we go to main, rather than have this like if else if this way. Oh, actually, I would have wanted to remove that space there. Amend my commit. So let's see. Let's assume these types. Let's just start with, does this even compile? Because like, this didn't even compile the last time I tried. Oh wow. Well, that's really nice. So I guess C++17 really is fully implemented now in 15.7. In just the previous version, I was unable to make this kind of code work. I believe it was the previous version. So that means that this code would become more like std visit and then we say overloaded, and if it's an emu event reset, I guess I don't really need to modify it. So we can say if it's this, then reset. Right, and then it's comma separated, I believe. Yeah. If instead it is a, well, actually, let's just see if this even compiles. So let's do this. And I might need a case. See, this is not looking good already. comma v. Yes, I have to pass it at the very end. I have to pass it the variant that we are working on. I think I've messed up something here. Let me see. Oh yeah. Okay. It's like this. But this does not look like it's still happy. Oh, it requires, so the usage of Vectrexy reset requires the compiler to capture this. Okay, right. Fair enough. What else? Warning reset is not used. That's true. So let's say we just remove that. Is not a member of break into debugger. Why would that matter? I guess what it's saying is I need to handle all the cases. Is that what it's trying to tell me? Let me see here. This variant v is what? Oh no, it's not the it's the events type, yeah. Okay, that's right. Vec, let me see. This vector has a bunch of variants. Int, long, double, string, but they're not capturing. Okay, they're not doing anything. So what's the problem? Clang format off. I'm gonna do this clang format off thing because it's messing around with it. It's not doing a good job here. Like this. See, this would be really nice if it just worked, like match expression type of thing. It's not a member of std variant, emu event break into debugger, emu event reset, emu event open ROM file. What am I doing this wrong? Oh, right, it's not a function, it's a type. Oh, of course. That's really easy to mess up, isn't it? Overloaded is actually like a, it's more like a, you know, it's a structure that we're building here. So let's see if this actually makes it happy. Getting closer. Getting the same error though. Oh yes, of course. This is the overloaded, and then the function wants to type. Man, it's confusing. Like this. Oh, and I think this will actually compile. Wow. Let me see it down. How does this look? Yeah, it looks like that. And so then here, technically, we would want to add probably this, and we would like to go for, you know, emu event open ROM file. And then we put like all this code here. No. This is like become impossible with formatting. I'm just checking to see how it formats without Clang format off. And here it's going to say that we need to capture options as well. And it looks like we'd want to... Oh yes, and I guess this doesn't need to be a pointer. So this should work as before, and now we have this kind of complex match expression that was extremely painful to get working. Yeah. So it's kind of cool and not that cool, and so part of it is, you know, the Clang format thing, which, you know, that's not the fault of the language. I would like it to format these one per line, which is not doing by default. But then apart from that, so do I really need this here? Technically I don't. Oh no, I do. Oh yeah, because I'm doing load ROM. There's also kind of this difficulty of sort of constructing this overloaded set. See, like, can I do this? Can I put the extra comma? I don't think I can because a class... Oh yeah, it actually lets that. Interesting. So now the Clang format doesn't mind. But it's kind of like luck of the draw here, you know? So here it just happens to be fine. So we have stood_visit, then we have overloaded. Overloaded is a class that we initialize with a series of lambdas to match each type that it could receive. In this case, we don't care about it, we just want to match the type. So we take it by reference and no name, and we reset. Here we care, so we capture the value that we can actually inspect. And then for other types, which we don't care about, we do this. Because if we don't do that part, I think it might not even compile, because it needs to match every possible variant. So yeah, see here it says stood_visit, no matching overloaded function found. And does it tell us which one? Frame update, lambda, variance, emu event type. So it's not really telling us. So you kind of have to know. So that's, you know, error messages there are not great yet. But, you know, one can assume that if the standard, if they add overloaded to the standard, they'll make it a bit more rich than this, you know. They should be able to actually detect which ones are missing and give a better error message. This is just like a kind of quick shortcut to get it to work. But like I said, this code, if I check it in now, I'm going to break AppVeyor for sure. So then the question is like, is it all that much better, you know? Doing this, is this really much better than doing the if, else if dance we do with the stood get if? I don't know. I mean, this is a little bit annoying, but definitely seems more natural in terms of code. Like this looks, you know, this is understandable, right? There is the shenanigans with if we use the same type name here, then you can't else if because of the scoping. So that's kind of sucky. I don't know. I think that eventually this will become the more classic, and maybe there'll be like, maybe in C++ 20 it'll be something like visit overloaded. So it'll be one function that will accept a series of lambdas, and it will construct the overloaded thing that, you know, like that could be done. You know, visit overloaded would just be a function that accepts a whole bunch of lambdas, and yeah, like I said, it would construct, it would invoke stood_visit and construct an overloaded instance with all the values. So that just right there would look a lot cleaner. And maybe Clang format will learn to organize this differently, I don't know. But for now, not sold on this just yet. So let's just reset that file. All right, so guys, I'm gonna call it a night. Thank you very much for watching, and normally I should be streaming again next Monday, but it probably will be Tuesday and Thursday again. So if you want to know, follow me on Twitter and check it out. I'll be posting what happens. So yeah, thanks a lot, and see you next time.